Okay, so we've talked about how we're going to be plugging in our cables and such into the back of the board for using the different functions for the board. But we also have to talk about how we're going to change the input on the actual board to make sure that those devices work properly once we plug them in. Okay, so on the bottom right hand corner of your board, you have your input button. When you press the input button, you have a wide variety of places that you can go to. So depending upon what type of device you're using and where your cable's plugged in, that will change the input that you have to use on your screen. Okay, so when I click input, it defaults to HDMI 3. That's the use of the computer. If I decide that I want to plug something into one of my HDMI ports in the back, either HDMI 1 or HDMI 2, I can go to input, and I have to make sure that I'm on the correct HDMI input, either 1 or 2, depending upon which one my device is plugged in. So in order to use the HDMI port, you have to make sure that your input is changed on the computer to show HDMI 1 or HDMI 2. Okay? If you want to use your VGA cable for your Elmo, you can go to input, and you have to make sure that you're on number 5, the D sub for the PC. That will allow you to use your Elmo on the board and actually have that plugged in, but it has to be plugged in on the back with the VGA port. Now the last one we're going to talk about is using your input 4 if you want to play something through your DVD or VCR. You have to make sure that the input of the board is on input 4. So once you plug in your composite or component cables, you have to be on input 4. Now once you're on input 4, when you go to your remote, you should have a remote that came with your board, you'll click the menu button and a menu will pop up. You'll scroll over to the right where the wand is, right here on the very right hand side, and you'll scroll down to input select. When you click input select, you're given 2 options, video or component. If you're just using the yellow or the white and the red cables, that will keep you on video. If you decide that you're going to use your component cables, your red, your green, and your blue, you have to change this to component in order for you to use this. If your board is not on input 4 and you decide that you're going to use your VGA, or excuse me, your other cables for your composite and your component, you will not be able to select what you want to be in. So when I go over here to the right hand side, if you notice input select is not selected. So you have to make sure that your board is on input 4 in order for you to use your composite and your component cables.